Hello, BookTube. In the last few days, I've reached 2 milestones. As of November 5th, I have officially been on YouTube for 1 year. I did take off a little time because I thought YouTube wasn't for me. Then I realized that no, I reworked a couple things, made YouTube work for me, and here I am 1 year later. That brings me to milestone number 2. I've reached 100 subscribers. So thank you to all of you who I've been with since the beginning. A lot of you, I started off as like a liker, commenter, and subscriber to your channels, and everyone was so encouraging to me to start from the beginning. Here we are all this time later. So a big thank you for making this the best hobby I've ever had. I don't see any signs of stopping now. And all this couldn't have happened at a better time too, because after all, we are in November, and the big reading event now is Nonfiction November, where, as the title implies, we read nonfiction. And like my whole life, I've always been like a nonfiction reader, a history reader. It wasn't until I joined YouTube for the first time that I really dived into fiction and really expanded my horizons. So let's get right into it. For this month, I have 3 selections that I will be reading. I know I'm not going to deviate from that because I couldn't be more excited to read these 3. So the first one, I've been touting the last couple of videos, so I'm not going to dive into it too much. The Secret Life of Houdini. Nothing's changed, still amazing. I'm about halfway through right now. Sorry, a little messy. This one, this is a book I've been meaning to read for a long time. It's a little history book, or nonfiction history, same thing, nonfiction and history, written by one of the greats, Laura Hillenbrand. This was a book called Seab Biscuit. I never read this before, but I did see the movie back in like 2005 when it had come out. It's a long time ago now. Essentially about a self-made like millionaire. This guy here, I forget the names of these people. In the movie, he was played by Jeff Bridges. The guy was like a self-made man, became one of the richest men in America, and he bought a racehorse. The racehorse was called Seabiscuit. And like he found this jockey who was played by Tobey Maguire in the movie. And like it was such an incredible story. I didn't think I would be so moved by a racehorse. Like I really was. Like this poor horse, like he was like undercoached. He was, I know it's a fine line between being abused and undercoached. Probably a little bit of both going on. But like the trainers saw nothing in him. That the horse was being used. Like they would have Seabiscuit lose races intentionally to build the confidence of the other horses. And so our main man here, he found Seabiscuit, found this jockey. Like who joked out the jockey was too big, the horse was too small. And they went on to make history, and as the title implies, an American legend. Became one of the greatest racehorses ever. Like I said, it was oddly very inspiring, which you wouldn't think from a racehorse, or I wouldn't think personally. Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. So, and Laura Hillenbrand, she is a premier writer, a historian. Like she knows how to not just tell you a series of events. She tells you an entire story too. She's very gripping and engaging. Like this is actually the second book of hers I read, because she wrote the book Unbroken. It was made into a movie too. It was about the guy whose plane crashed over the Pacific Ocean. He was kidnapped, or not kidnapped, but he was taken prisoner by Japanese troops in the Philippines. It was a tale of survival. It was incredible. So anyway, yeah, can't wait to read this. I do know a little bit about the history of these guys from the movie, but we'll get more into that when I do the November wrap-up. And let's see, the third one I have planned for the month. This one I found on two channels. They're Triumphal Reads and Michael Kist. Big fan of those two guys. Like those two are my premier channels to go to for nonfiction. And of course, any channel I mentioned in the video I will link down below if you'd like to check them out as well. And they both highly touted this book, and I can see why. It's called Henry V, The Astonishing Triumph of England's Greatest Warrior King. Yeah. One of the main reasons like this book was appealing to me is I've been seeing Henry V a lot lately. I remember back in September I participated in Shakestember, reading Shakespeare, and Henry V was the subject of one of Shakespeare's plays. I didn't read that one yet, but I realized I was learning about Henry V. At that time too, like my favorite podcast, The Rest is History, they did like a few episodes about Henry V. So I was getting like bombarded with the guy out of nowhere. And then this book just came out, and it's by Dan Jones, who has an incredible history podcast as well. He's another guy who knows how to tell a story too. And so, so since September, I've been hearing nothing but Henry V. So naturally, this came out. I had to check it out. And credit to Dan Jones for his writing style. Like you read the introduction, and you're hooked. Like he starts off the book with a story about how Henry V. Uh, rather the introduction starts off with this famous like doctor and surgeon who's being summoned to Henry V's aid. Because when Henry was 16 years old, he was in battle. He got shot in the face by a longbow. So this is the opening of the book. He's 16 years old, so the surgeon is being called to his aid, and like, well, that's at stake here. This is the future heir to the throne. Like, well, he's avoid infection, make sure he survives, make sure he's not paralyzed. Ooh, there's a lot at stake, and that was just the beginning. So right off the bat, Dan Jones, that really captured my attention. And all else I know about Henry V, he's responsible for one of the biggest military victories ever, the Battle of Agincourt in France, between England and France. It's like one of those battles, like the British were highly outnumbered, and like they won the battle against the French and they won. It's one of those historic battles from like ancient Greece, Napoleon, Henry V. Like these historic victories are studied by generals around the world to this day. And one thing I have to address before I forget about it again. A while back, I put a little notification in my community tab saying that I was going to start this thing called Lyrics or Poems, where I talk about like song lyrics. For the longest time, I couldn't figure out how I was going to proceed with this because the initial plan was, okay, I'll make a video, I'll read the lyrics aloud. The only problem is I stink. Like doing like live readings, like, oh god, I'm just terrible. And like, let's be real, you don't want to hear any of your favorite songs filter through this nasally voice. Neither would I. So I figured out how I'm going to do this. I will post the lyrics or poems in my community tab. I've already done this a couple of times too. Like I'll write down like a little text of my own, and I'll include a little video. Could be a live performance, a music video, and so that's how we'll go with that from there. So far, I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I've already uploaded about 3 videos. And lastly, folks, I treated myself and bought 2 new books just today, actually. And, let's see, what's today? Today's Thursday. So yeah, I film and record on the same day. First up, a little bit of mythology going on. This is one of the classics by Virgil, the Aeneid. You know, the reason this was on my mind too, the other day there was a video uploaded by Nicole over a day of small things. She was one of the co-hosts of Shake-Tember a couple months ago, and she did a really cool breakdown of the Aeneid and the Odyssey. I always like her videos. Like she takes like an academic approach to it, and so since it was fresh in mind, so I went out and bought the Aeneid. So I've been meaning to read this for a while too. One thing that fascinates me, like this is like the history lover of me too. You look at especially the personal reasons of me, which I'll get to in a second too. But like you look at like a country's like myths, the legends and whatnot. It's just as important as any like real person too. And I wanted to read the Aeneid because it's centered around the character Aeneas. He's the Trojan warrior. Like Troy is destroyed by the Greeks, and it's about his journey and essentially what leads to the foundation of Rome, which is essentially my ancestry. So like, even though it's mythology, I consider it just as important from a little historical and ethnic perspective as much as any king or emperor or anything else. And lastly, the latest book in a series came out. It's the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. This is Before We Forget Kindness. A beautiful shade of green there. A little kitty cat. Yeah. I've only read the first book, but I loved it so much, I went out and bought the rest of the books in the series, and this one just came out. I'll show you all of them right here for you. There we go. Here they all are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have all the spine match. You know who would love this? Like, I don't know if I can say we love the series, but you know who would love this just for the spines? Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, The Lonesome Crown, all 3 books published by Simon & Schuster Saga Press. I've been hearing that intro every 2 times a week for 5 years now. Anyway, all the spines match. I've only read the first one. It was one of my first book reviews on my little booktube channel here. So I'm planning. They're all fast reads too, like a little nice, cozy little fantasy. These people work in this cafe, and like there's little magical elements to it. It's like almost like a little cozy, little Twilight. I broadly call these types of stories like Twilight Zone stories. It's like here we are, a little supernatural going on. We don't know why. We just tune in and let's look at these characters. And let's wrap that up here, folks. I got a lot of reading to do. I know all of you do as well. Anyway, happy November. I'll see you guys around.